She comes up and says, nah, Luffy beat Katakuri fair and square, straight up legitimate. Hey, what's up everybody? It's LeeLos, and today we're talking about why Luffy versus Katakuri is obvious. Stay steady and pursue your dreams and goals. You're born to win, you're made for greatness, and I definitely believe in you guys. Keep up the great work each and every day. So today we're analyzing the Luffy versus Katakuri fight, explaining who really won that fight and why. Then we'll be carefully analyzing all three acts of Wano, seeing how a hypothetical Luffy versus Katakuri rematch would go to see if anything changes. In Whole Cake Island, Luffy vs. Katakuri was an 11-hour slam sesh where Luffy was pummeled and ridiculed relentlessly without mercy. Every one attack Luffy landed, Katakuri retaliated, landing at least a dozen of his own. And in the end, even with these lopsided punch stats, Luffy still pulls out the W. There are two schools of popular thought that explain this conclusion. Either option A, Katakuri gained so much respect for Luffy throughout the duration of the fight that in the end he decided to just let Luffy go. Or option B, that Luffy did so much damage to Katakuri that Katakuri genuinely could not continue fighting anymore, meaning Luffy won simply to having far greater durability. The Big Mom Pirates' initial assumption of what happened in the Luffy versus Katakuri fight was something closer to option A. They're saying Luffy probably just got lucky and ran away from Katakuri, so let's just finish him off here. Then Brûlé appears, a character who was literally front row seat watching the entire 11 hours of the fight. She comes up and says, nah, Luffy beat Katakuri fair and square, straight up legitimate. The idea that Luffy beat Katakuri through pure endurance is supported by the narrative of the story, Katakuri's family member that was live audience to the fight itself and has literally nothing but advantages to gain by saying otherwise, and freaking Monkey D. Luffy himself, a character that since chapter 1 has been terrible at lying. Furthermore, being resilient and tanky beyond reason has been part of Luffy's character since pre-time skip. This rubbery boy took 3 Rokuguns to the chest pre-time skip, then stood up and Gatling'd Lucci through a wall, and he did this with no haki boosting his defense. After training with Rayleigh, Luffy's overall stats increase exponentially, so much so that he one-shots a Pacifista with a casual attack, while pre-time skip it took the combined strongest wombo combo attacks from the Straw Hats just to defeat one Pacifista. Seeing how Luffy's attack power became exponentially stronger with haki and training with Rayleigh, it would logically make sense for Luffy's durability to increase exponentially from this training as well. And when you add on top of this that Luffy is a mythical zone, and every mythical zone in the series has been shown to have either insane endurance, insane durability, or insane regen, it gives a strong case as to why Luffy would be able to beat Katakuri with pure durability alone. Whole Cake Island is the arc Luffy begins building and expanding upon the training he received from Rayleigh. Rayleigh's training brought Luffy to be relative to the 3rd Division commanders, and now in Whole Cake Island, Luffy's battles progress Luffy to the point where he now becomes relative to the 1st Division commanders. Their first battle concludes with Luffy pulling out an extreme difficulty W, basically relying on his strengths and maximizing Katakuri's weaknesses. Katakuri was narratively introduced as a very powerful skill-based fighter. He's actually one of the most skilled fighters in all of One Piece, surpassing even the likes of End of Wano Law in terms of skill with his Devil Fruit, proven by Law stating in Wano that using Awakening is a last resort effort that makes Law unable to fight afterwards, while Katakuri spams his Awakening against base Luffy just as casually as he does his normal abilities legit like 30 minutes into an 11-hour fight, and he still fights the remaining 10 hours with no problem. Katakuri also had both advanced observation haki, advanced armament haki, and normal conqueror's haki, while Luffy had only mastered the basics of haki and had no idea how to awaken his Devil Fruit. So end of Act 1, we have enraged Luffy who gets one shot by Kaido. The only difference in this Luffy is that he wouldn't have to spend the first hour of the fight getting slammed in confusion trying to figure out that Katakuri's using advanced observation haki. The simplest answer is this version of the fight would still result in Luffy winning, and it would still be extremely difficult, but it would be much more of a 1-to-1 back and forth fight, more similar to Luffy versus Lucci was during Enies Lobby, rather than a 12-to-1 punch output like their first battle was. The moment Luffy steps foot on Wano's soil, he displays mastery of Future Sight to such a degree that he casually starts using it on fodder pirates, and passively uses it many times throughout the arc even when he wasn't fighting. It more or less stops becoming a special technique and more a technique Luffy can use whenever he wants. Future Sight is only an advantage when you're the only person using it. In a normal fight, you're just reacting to things as they happen. Fighter A only has, let's say, half a second to react to a punch as he sees it coming, and Fighter B also only has that same 0.5 seconds to react to a punch. So no one has a reaction time advantage, but if Luffy sees 5 seconds into the future and Katakuri also sees the same 5 seconds into the future, then neither of them have any advantage either. They both have the same 5 seconds of reaction time to deal with. Then the fight is just a matter of who is more skilled, fast, powerful, and durable during that time, and that's what we saw in their first battle actually. This fight plays out exactly how the last segment of their first battle does, only this time Luffy doesn't have several hours worth of accumulated damage and it's back and forth rather than one-sided. It's still an extreme difficulty battle, resulting in Luffy winning due to superior durability and attack potency. Wano Act 2 begins with Luffy getting locked in the slammer, and it ends with Luffy breaking out of prison after gaining a mastery of Rio. Not only that, Luffy's base physical strength stats have increased so much through his prison training with Seastone Prism cuffs on that now he's unlocked the ability to use Red Rock. Red Rock and Red Hawk still have mysteries around them that Oda hasn't revealed or explained, but it's assumed Red Rock is a combination of Gear 2, Gear 3, and Armament Haki simultaneously. Even without using Red Rock, Act 2 Luffy destroys Katakuri without even needing Gear 4. End of Act 2 is when Luffy vs Katakuri starts to become less competitive, and it starts tipping the scales towards Luffy kinda bullying Katakuri. Katakuri being a character where durability is his observed weakest stat, so much so that all it took on screen was a few Gear 4 attacks and a King Cobra to the tummy to send Katakuri night-night. Katakuri would get decimated by Rio, an attack that negates durability altogether and does internal organ damage on each attack. It's just genuinely a bad matchup for Katakuri, especially considering how Luffy's shown reacting to Thunder Bagua and then reacting to attacks from Man Beast Form Kaido in base form just a few chapters after Act 2 without any significant additional training. This would be a high difficulty fight for Luffy because Katakuri can still tag and do damage to him, but Luffy has so much attack power and reaction speed now that he's strong enough to take Katakuri out without even using Gear 4. So Act 3 begins with the start of the raid on Onigashima, and it concludes with Luffy as a literal freaking Yonko. So I'll put it to you nice and simply here. End of Wano Act 3 Luffy vs Katakuri is so one-sided, I don't think you can even talk about it on YouTube without fear of getting your videos age restricted. Luffy, no joke, is so powerful. Katakuri fighting end of Act 3 Luffy would be 100% the exact same as how Luffy's first fight with Kaido went. Luffy could legit get drunk, turn his advanced Conqueror's Haki on and just sit there talking trash, while Katakuri throws his most powerful attacks at Luffy until he's absolutely exhausted himself. Then Luffy at any moment could stand up, punch Katakuri once in his jaw and kill him, and he could do it in base form. Gear 2, 3, 4, 5, none of those are necessary at all. The gap between just base Luffy and Katakuri is so gigantic that honestly it's kind of embarrassing even bringing up the gears. So let me explain in simple terms why base Act 3 Luffy versus Katakuri is not a fight, it's just a genuine massacre. So Katakuri wailed on Luffy for 11 hours in their first battle with his strongest attacks, his legendary Mole Spear, Advanced Observation Haki, Awakening, Advanced Armament, literally everything. Nearly every single attack landing too. Still fails to knock Luffy out completely. Kaido comes in drunk, fights an even stronger version of this same Luffy, and one-shot KOs him in base form. So what Katakuri failed to do in 11 hours of combining his strongest attacks, Kaido is so powerful that he surpasses all that power with one attack in base form while he's drunk and not even trying. This same Kaido then powers up by entering Man-Beast form. Man-Beast form pre-time skip was shown to be relative to a Gear 2 level power multiplier, proven in the Luffy vs Lucci fight, where in base form they're both about even to each other, then Luffy goes Gear 2nd, Lucci goes Man-Beast form, and then they're still just about even to each other. So every time you see Kaido going Man-Beast form, just imagine Kaido is going Gear 2nd because it's about that much power he's increasing by. There's some theories that Gear 2nd is actually Luffy's Man-Beast form transformation, since Luffy's been revealed to be a mythical zone. Luffy in base form clashes with this amped out, stronger than ever Man-Beast form Kaido and splits the sky with him, something only shown by top tiers matching each other in power, meaning base form Luffy, he's already shown with feats power significantly greater than what base form drunk Kaido displayed when he one-shot Luffy. Meaning with just a normal base form punch and advanced Conqueror's Haki, Luffy would be capable of one-shotting Act 1 Gear 4 Luffy, and Gear 4 Act 1 Luffy was shown to be a far more durable character than Katakuri was anyway. This was also why Luffy became so confident the moment he received Advanced Conquerors and basically told Law and Zoro to get out of his way because he was about to while out. And just for people who want to hear a bit about the gears turning Katakuri into dust, Kaido in Man-Beast form does a Gatling version of Thunder Bagua where he fires hundreds of Thunder Baguas back to back, then Luffy goes Gear 3 and counters it perfectly with Rock Gatling, meaning an attack literally hundreds of times more powerful than the combination of 11 hours worth of Katakuri's strongest attacks. Luffy in Gear 3 matches that no problem. So I mean, I hope you can see why I didn't want to talk about these gears, dude, because like Katakuri is a cool character and seeing him just get dusted to atoms like this is actually like kind of hurts my feelings. I'm not gonna lie. If I'm just being honest, serious about it, Gear 2 turns Katakuri into dust, Gear 3 turns Katakuri into atoms, Gear 4 makes me want to throw up, it's such a disgusting massacre, and Gear 5, I mean, I think that's just like an actual crime. I don't know what I could use to describe that. That has to be against the law. Luffy using his gears is a better matchup for fighting the entirety of the Big Mom pirates minus Big Mom herself, rather than just fighting Katakuri. Like, Katakuri needs all his other division commanders, all 84 of his siblings need to show up. Like, all of them. Okay, that would be a better matchup for Luffy with his gears, and even still, that's like, it's not looking good for the Big Mom pirates. So it's a huge difference in power. It's honestly so funny that... So is there any hope for Katakuri post Wano, like after the Wano arc's done? So let's go over that. So something to keep in mind is that with Oda, one of his strengths is that the progression of every character he puts into the story actually matters a lot to him. Good examples being the Supernova all getting progressively bigger bounties despite getting very little screen time relative to the Straw Hats, but a better example being side characters like Koza. Koza was Vivi's friend in Alabasta who ran the rebellion against Vivi's father. Oda went out of his way to write an entire side story for Koza in the manga, where now he has his own business and is like stacking up bread. Gedatsu is a warrior priest from Skypiea. He was the one that fought Chopper, and after losing to Chopper, he accidentally falls off Skypiea and survived, and ends up teaming up with Koza, and they're like business partners together, just stacking up cash, having a successful, happy life. Oda went out of his way to write a cover story just for that in his manga. Now, considering the glow up Oda is willing to give to nearly no-name side characters that just about nobody remembers, don't be surprised if Katakuri comes back in a future arc and is given the crocodile treatment. Disappears for a while off screen, but when he comes back, he can suddenly scrap with fighters far above his previously shown level, especially a beloved character like Katakuri, with the best genetics of the entire 85 children in the Big Mom family, and his mother being a Yonko who literally had top tier level feats at 5 years old, and Katakuri also has Conqueror's Haki. He's one of the 1 in a million who has Conqueror's Haki. There's so many ways Oda can buff Katakuri off screen and make him way stronger, so as of right now, his durability is so low that he ranks at the bottom of all the first division commanders except Burgess, but Oda could easily just boost him and give him advanced Conquerors and make him a competitive fight for Zoro if he wants to, but the days of him being Luffy's rival are out of the question for now. The gap between first division commander and Yonko are just simply gigantic.